So today we just had the Deutsche Bank Technology Conference. It was a one-on-one between Chris and an analyst, and he asked a few questions. The first part of the call was set up. It was 15 minutes, basically an overview of nothing. If you've been following Astra to this point, nothing new. And there were some major developments in the last 15 minutes. So I would say if you go back and check out this call, you would want to watch the last 15 minutes, but I'm going to give you a brief summary during this video. So 2 days ago, 6 minutes, 44 seconds, check out that video on the price prediction on Astra. It's going up today. So before we get started, go ahead and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. For those of you that are new subscribers, thank you for joining. And give the video a big thumbs up, really helps me out a lot. That's all I ask from you. So first part of the conversation that Chris had with the analyst, basically ran through some PowerPoint slides, went through things like I was saying before that we already know. $1 trillion space economy, 150 million in launch contracts, technology that's going into the satellites were such as consumer electronic technologies, which are making them much more affordable to build. There is a hyperspace scale industry taking shape. About 6 minutes into the video, Chris said, you can't do anything unless you can get into space. So he definitely acknowledged that he knows that they've got to get there. He talked about scaling, producing one rocket a month. Scaling is going to be important for this company, especially if they ultimately end up going on a daily launch cadence, which is going to take a little while, but they're going to get there. It sounds like they're still on track. There is a strong emphasis, and this is why I like the company, a strong emphasis on building a lower cost system, not just a lower cost rocket, but a software-driven manufacturing system. They called it Astra OS, operating system, I assume, which will enable them to optimize everything from the supply chain to manufacturing to general operations. And he gave a few examples of that where he had initially 12 people in operation, then 6, then 2 in mission control by using headsets, VR glasses, so on and so forth. So a dozen people to a half a dozen on mission control, and actually out there on the launch pad, they've really drilled that down to be more cost effective. So software, AI, automation, the acquisition of Apollo Fusion, the signing of the launch contracts with NASA, Planet, Space Force, building out a team from very experienced backgrounds. So he didn't just lean on talking mainly about one person. This is the first time I've heard Chris talk more about the team as a whole. So that was encouraging. Now let's transition into the second half of the conversation, which is why I believe the stock price really started ticking up. And he talked about, if you didn't know already, the last launch was unsuccessful. Well, it was successful to Astra. They seen it as, still a test launch, but, the expectations from potential customers and shareholders were that it would actually make it into space. So one of the engines went out. Everybody should know that by now. And next week, they are going to review in detail an overview of the findings. So date and time, keep you updated on that. No changes to the plans according to the data that was issued or that they have. So Astra is still on schedule with the next launches that they had planned for the rest of this year. So there were 50 changes that were made to the rocket. They basically seen this as, a success to them. And that's the general theme that I keep getting from the team. And who knows this whole business model better than the team themselves? So can they reduce the number of engines considering how well the rocket performed, even though it went sideways and then it took off? Can they reduce the number of engines as another cost savings measure? That was a good question, I thought, but it sounds like they're not going to scrap an engine. It looks like, they're spending the money, the bulk of the funds on the avionics in the unit and the engine. So those are the two major, where they want to cost save in other aspects of the rocket. They don't plan on cost saving. They're spending the bulk of the money that is associated with the rocket in those two areas. So they're locking in a launch window. The update's supposed to come next week, and this could take off a little bit further. Now there is I would say a ceiling or a resistance level at about 1160. The complexity of the components being in the engines and avionics of the rockets, sets them apart from their competitors. And he went through again the competitive landscape and compared Astra to a FedEx model. So not only I've said previously as an airport that wants to have multiple locations that can launch on a moment's notice, but Chris compared Astra to the FedEx model and also to an Amazon Web Service. So this is the last thing that I'll cover. This was really exciting and something that I talked about in my previous video when I talked about how I don't just see them being an airport for space and satellites. I really see them utilizing the data and ability and the constellations that they have to give data to companies, being a data manager. And if you watch the video, towards the end of it, he said, the easier we make it for hundreds of thousands of companies to improve life on Earth, to solve problems from space, so companies don't have to build satellites or operate constellations, that you'll see a speed up in this space. And he doesn't believe that you have to slow down the market by having those obstacles in place. It sounds like Astra wants to help grow the market faster and solve these problems, and that was very exciting. So that's all I got. I'm going to keep this one short.